Hi everyone, it's Helen here from Helen Chapman Handmade Crafts, and I want to welcome you today to a new video series called Stampin Basics. And this series is going to be a beginner's guide to stamping. So for anyone who is brand new to stamping, maybe just started up a new hobby, or anyone that struggles with stamping for some reason, hopefully we can get you started or get you going more successfully using this video series. This first video is just going to be me letting you know what the absolute basic essentials are for stamping. We'll go through everything you need to get started, and then as the series goes on, we'll introduce different products that allow us to do different techniques, make different types of cards, different types of projects. But for now, we're going to concentrate on the essentials, and we'll go through exactly what you need to get started. Obviously, stamps. So we'll go into different types of stamps and everything like that in more detail in the next video. Video 2 will be all about the different types of stamps. We'll also give you some advice on how to choose stamp sets to make sure you're getting good value for money, and just to generally help you choose the sort of stamp sets to buy. Now, I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, so all of the products that I'm going to show you today are from Stampin' Up! And everything that I show you in future videos will pretty much be Stampin' Up! Products. Now, if you've got other types of products, then that's absolutely fine. Most of the advice I'm going to give you will apply to those as well. If you do need to purchase any of the items that we talk about, then each video will have a link to a blog post, and the blog post will contain links which will enable you to buy any of the products that I mention. Okay. Now, an example of a stamp set from Stampin' Up! This one's called Timeless Tulips. And you can see it is a combination of images and sentiments. And that's one of the key things that we'll talk about in how to choose a stamp set and making sure you're getting good value for your money. Okay. Next, obviously you need ink to ink up your stamps. There's different types of ink pads, and we'll go through what types of ink pads you need for what purposes, be it general stamping, watercolouring, colouring with alcohol markers. It can be a bit of a minefield, but we'll explain all of it. Next, paper and card. You want to make a decent card base, so you want a decent weight of cardstock, and we'll go through different weights of cardstock in the appropriate video. You can of course buy ready-made card bases if you would like to. Obviously it is more economical to make your own. So for example, we have a basic card base here, and all that you would need to create that is a trimmer and some way of scoring to create the fold. Next, we don't want plain cards, do we? We want something lovely and pretty, and an easy way to achieve that for a beginner is patterned papers. So something like this. Generally come in paper packs, often double-sided. Sometimes you'll get foiled papers. Again, different weights depending on the manufacturer and the type of paper pack, but a brilliant way to get started and a brilliant way to add interest to your cards and create really, really fantastic backgrounds. Now, unless you've got wood block stamps, then you're going to need acrylic clear blocks to mount your stamps onto. Now, you want to make sure that if you don't want to purchase many of these, then you need to get some that are decent sized to enable you to stamp with large stamps. However, the more different sizes you can have, the better, really. What I find is if you put a small stamp onto a large block, you'll often get ink on the block itself, and that can very easily transfer onto your project. So that's something to be really careful of. Obviously, the bigger the block, they can be a little bit more unwieldy as well. So it's a good investment, if you can, to get a few different sizes. The next thing is a trimmer, and this is the Stampin' Up! Paper trimmer, and this is an integrated trimmer and scorer, which is a good investment. Again, you can get separate scoring boards, and you can of course score manually, but it tends to be a little bit more hit and miss, particularly if you've got slightly unsteady hands or anything like that. So a combination trimmer scorer is also a great investment. Finally, almost finally, adhesives. Now, this tends to be a bit of personal preference, really, and your standard choices are some sort of wet glue, a tape runner, double-sided tape, teeny tiny little glue dots. Different companies make different sizes in those, and foam see that? Foam pads, or sometimes strips, or sometimes even on a roll or something like that. Okay, again, we'll have an in-depth video later in the series on the different types of adhesive, but very quickly, some of the pros and cons, really. If you're talking about wet glue, it does tend to give you what we call wiggle time. So if you don't quite get something in the right position immediately, you tend to have a few seconds to be able to maneuver it around before it's properly stuck. If you use something like a tape runner, they tend to be much more quick grabbing. One chance really is all you get. After that, you're going to be trying to peel things back off, which tends to result in ripping your cardstock and that sort of thing. Same with double-sided tape, but it does have some really good uses as well. They're the main things that we're going to need. There's a couple of points that I want to just end this particular video on, and that is just to mention some of the extra items that we'll be using further on in the video series for other techniques. I will be going through the use of punches, the use of dies, embossing folders, heat embossing, the use of a stamping platform. So if these are things that you have either struggled with or would like to know more about, then stick with the video series and we'll go through each of those things in a different video. Different colouring methods as well will be something we'll look at. Different ways of using pattern paper. We're going to cover lots and lots and lots and lots, but we're going to also take it relatively slowly, and I'm always here. I'm always contactable if you should have any questions, and all of my details are available from my website. My website is papercraftlife.com, and there's a contact me page, there's a shop page, there's a blog if you want more inspiration, and maybe look up some of the techniques that we'll be using later on in the series. Okay, so I hope that all makes sense. I hope you know now what this series is going to involve, and we are going to go through all sorts of things, and we're going to get you some fantastic results in your card making and your papercraft projects. Okay, I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.